Hey, what's up, y'all? My name is Millennial Smark, and I'm back at it again with another video. I don't know why this has to be said. This is crazy as shit right here, bruh. And there are people legitimately angry at Mark Henry for actually saying this. I thought this was just obvious. Are we just being delusional now? Like, are we not living in the real world? Are we not seeing the things with our eyes that we should be seeing with our eyes, but we're ignoring with our eyes because apparently eyes are offensive nowadays? Seeing things is offensive nowadays? Check out this article real quick. I'll leave the link down in the description box below, because maybe I'm the one living in Delulu land, right? Is that what the kids say nowadays? Delulu? Here, check this out real quick. WWE Hall of Famer criticizes AEW's booking of Kazuchika Okada. A WWE Hall of Famer has criticized AEW's booking of current Continental Champion Kazuchika Okada during his time in the company. Okada joined AEW back in March after his contract with New Japan Pro Wrestling expired the prior month. Upon his debut, Okada turned heel and aligned with Matthew and Nicholas Jackson, joining the Elite before capturing the AEW Continental Championship from Eddie Kingston 2 weeks later. Okada has reigned as the champion ever since, with him set to be a part of the Continental Classic, but one former AEW name has been less than pleased with his booking in the company. Speaking on Busted Open Radio, Mark Henry discussed the booking of Okada, where he encouraged AEW to let Okada go and work rather than being delegated to saying bitch. He said, and this is from Mark Henry, Kazuchika Okada was one of the best wrestlers in the world, top 5, and now you have him delegated. I guess he meant relegated, but okay. Or maybe he means delegated, I don't know. I think relegated is the appropriate word though. You have him delegated to saying bitch to pop the crowd. Let him go and work, man. That dude is amazing. I want to hear the coin drop and people say, oh man, it's about to go down. Not people hearing the coin drop and saying, oh boy, here we go. Okada is set to face off with TNT champion Daniel Garcia on this week's episode of AEW Collision in the Continental Classic. So, two things about this I want to say. First, let me just get this completely out of the way, because I think sometimes, and you know, I hear this said about wrestlers, and I always have this in the back of my mind whenever I hear people, even if they're coming to the defense on behalf of a wrestler, right? I recently just started thinking about this. I always try to keep in mind, how does the wrestler actually feel about this? And I try to put myself in the wrestler's shoes. Obviously, this is not always going to be the consistent message, at least, you know, from what I can see, from how everybody else is going to feel, just going off of my own mind, going off the top of my head. This could be a situation where Kazuchika Okada, because I've seen him wrestle, and I've seen him wrestle a couple times in Japan and stuff like that over the past decade. Maybe it could be a situation where, you know, he let his contract expire in New Japan Pro Wrestling to have a lighter schedule in AEW. That much is obvious, on top of the pay. But also, maybe he's still hurting. Maybe he doesn't like taking bumps. Maybe he doesn't want to work as hard as he did in New Japan Pro Wrestling, because what he did in New Japan Pro Wrestling theoretically was to get to a spot like this. Maybe not to this specific spot in AEW to work like this, but to be in this specific spot where, you know, he's still relatively young. I don't think Kazuchika's 40 yet. You know, he gets to still wrestle once in a while, but at the same time, he wants to give his body a break. So I do want to say, just to kind of give a caveat to this, maybe that can be a situation as to why Kazuchika isn't working all too much. But that's still no excuse to have him in the position that you have him in right now, making the kind of money that he's making right now, given his name value, which, by the way, his name value only goes as far as the wrestling fans who are currently here today. Now, I've always notated this when looking at someone like an Edge, when looking at someone, for an example, like a CM Punk. Hell, even nowadays, you can pretty much say the same thing about Roman Reigns. I don't mind the whole special attraction deal. I don't mind that at all. My whole thing has always been in regards to the promos, the build. What are you doing with said superstar to prepare them to eventually have that match, that money match, whether it's on a pay-per-view, whether you're setting it up on a special show, or whatever the case may be, right? As long as you're having that talent consistently on television, just delivering. That's all I want. Just have them deliver. I'm perfectly fine with whatever they do. They don't have to wrestle. I've never been the one to advocate for them to have to wrestle on television every other week, but their presence should definitely be known every single fucking week. Or if nothing else, if you're gonna miss something, there better be an angle tied to that as to why they're not on television. You are not doing that with a Kazuchika Okada, and they have done this plenty of times with other talent. You know, I see people all the time, because they'll make up excuses, like Roman Reigns, for an example, right? Oh, he's not on television wrestling every week. See, again, like I said before, that's that poison mindset in the wrestling community today. That's why I look at what wrestling fans typically talk about today, and I take it with a grain of salt, because how their stupid, askewed vision of professional wrestling today is the reason why we're in the position that we're in right now. Your metrics, the way of how you actually engage with the product is so different compared to how fans back in the days used to engage with it. And I get it. In the end of the day, you have been trained this way, right? You have been trained to understand that the only thing that matters, the end all be all, is the in-ring wrestling in itself. So everything outside of that is not going to matter, right? You judge things based off of star ratings, whether it's the wrestling community as a whole, as far as the internet, people like Dave Meltzer, for an example, who have indoctrinated you to believe these kind of things, and then the wrestling business taking that mindset and making that the forefront because they know it's easy for them to get around that, whether it's cost-cutting measures in regards to not having to do a bunch of special things because they know all they have to do is put you out there and go wrestle, and that can be a reason to get around doing vignettes and other things to relate to the talent like they used to do back in the days consistently. Or maybe they themselves just kind of feel like, well, hell, the environment currently right now is moving in a certain direction. We should capitalize on that environment, more in particular, because we don't want to do anything that's going to really offend anybody. I mean, we might end up doing the Carlito situation that's completely mundane and really has no reference to racism at all. And we're going to take it, and, you know, when we do something that's simple, they're going to blow it completely out of proportion. By the way, that was all Carlito, by the way. But nevertheless, though, that's the example. Right? This is all to say, in the end of the day, AEW and how they treat their talent is so insane. You know, something I didn't touch on last night with the Ricochet match with him versus Cesaro, and I wish I would have touched on it. I was so fucking clouded by who was it? Was it Queen Nominata or some shit like that, or Jamie Hayter? I was like very, very blinded by the pussy that it just completely took me out of it. But Ricochet, did you see the way he lost that match with Cesaro? That flat ass finish with that lariat, that like no crowd pop, no nothing, no build up. He just got clotheslined and then he lost the match. It's not the fact that he lost the match to a clothesline. Gunther sometimes ends his matches with lariats. It's the position. It's filling the crowd. It's how did you get to that spot, right? That's how you put your talent over. Not to mention the inconsistency, right? So one minute you have Cesaro doing this stuff with Darby Allin, okay, but I thought Darby Allin was supposed to be in this position. Okay, we're gonna just completely let's just pretend for an example that never fucking happened. Okay, cool, we come to the next match. Why is Darby Allin in this tournament even though he's clearly in the position to be going after Jon Moxley's title? That's clearly the position that you want to put him into because eventually he's gonna get that belt. Well, no, he's gonna lose a match again in the main event, which, by the way, it's Continental Classic implications, not even towards the finals. We're still in the beginning of the tournament, meaning it's inconsequential right now at the moment, especially because it's a round robin tournament. Why aren't we focusing more on the Death Riders? And yeah, you brought us Cesaro afterwards, but you know, the world champion Jon Moxley, who we only seen once coming out of the fallout of a pay-per-view, none of it makes any sense whatsoever. But again, that's how they treat their top talent. That's how they treat their world championship. I said it once and I'll say it again. The mindset of AEW, the mindset of Tony Khan, right, is that he actually believes the World Heavyweight Championship, I think I used this analogy before, but I'm going to use it again. He thinks the AEW World Championship in some sort of way is kind of like a babysitter, right? He kind of feels that he can do whatever he wants, right? He can go party it up. He can go get drunk. He can do whatever he wants outside of his house, right? As long as there's a babysitter watching the kids. Metaphorically speaking, what I mean is he can do whatever he wants in regards to the booking of the show, right? He can bury the superstar without even recognizing that he's burying them because he's that much of a fucking mark. He can do whatever he wants to do with these challengers because he really likes these guys, but at the same time, he doesn't really want to put the World Heavyweight championship on them because he feels like he's going to be spacing things out and giving people multiple honors and priorities and chances. And he feels the AEW World Championship is a babysitter. Once you put that AEW World title on someone, that's all that it takes. You don't have to do anything else. Why? Because it's a world championship. Because it's a world title. And we all know that in the end of the day, the world champion automatically means that he's the face of the company. World title, world champion means he's number one guy. Title is a title. Therefore, we do not have to do anything with said title. Like, it's the stupidest fucking logic that you could possibly think of, right? Most people understand that if you have a world champion, the face of the company, theoretically you want to parade him around the entire fucking show because he's the world champion, right? It's backwards fucking booking. Don't get it twisted. This ain't just a Tony Khan situation. I've seen Triple H does this shit a lot too, and occasionally even Shawn Michaels. You know, just completely the degradation of the fucking world championship is one of the fucking most laziest, honestly, one of the most offensive things I've been seeing in professional wrestling for over the past, what, maybe decade now for the most part? Let's say 5 years, but off and on about a decade now, right? So let's not pretend as if when we see Tony Khan do stupid shit like this, there's no reason why you can't see him and the way he actually books his top talents. Right? You look at someone like a Kazuchika Okada, I don't have to care about him, but you did pay so much money for the guy. Why the fuck isn't he not wrestling for the World Championship, right? Right? You have this whole elite shit going on right now. Why the fuck could the Young Bucks not be his mouthpiece? Right? If you want to actually do this shit, you should have done this shit. You really, really should have done this shit. Right? You have so much people at the moment that you could honestly be preparing for a certain spot or two. You have Kazuchika Okada at the moment, right? You have someone like Hangman Adam Page. Yeah, he's a former world champion when it's all said and done. If you actually know what you're fucking doing, you just had him with another guy who I'm going to say also, and Swerve Strickland in the most intense feud of the entire fucking year so far. Your number one feud of the year. You had those two. You got Kazuchika Okada at the moment. You got Jon Moxley, if you knew what the fuck you were doing with that guy. And hell, if Jon Moxley knew what the fuck he was doing with himself. Don't pretend as if you don't have talent currently at the moment. Bobby Lashley right now just entered the fray in the company. You know that you have all this talent. You can do something with this talent. You choose not to do anything with this talent. Right? Because you don't know what the fuck you're doing. When you're opening up a show with 15 to 20 minutes, sometimes even 30-minute matches that take up 1/4 of the entire fucking show. That match could have been 5 minutes, and you could use that 25 minutes to either A, put over 2 more matches with some dialogue in between, whether that's promos or more importantly, whether that's actually skits or vignettes that actually hype up a fucking superstar for a goddamn change. You know, you have these 8 to fucking 100 million matches on pay-per-views. Half of them don't have any reasoning. Half of them, if they do have reasoning, don't really matter in the grand scheme of things because you haven't done anything to give them any priority or prominence or anything important to want to fucking do anything about in regards to having them actually engage with the common folks. But you sit here and then you pretend, and your friends and your fans and your colleagues and you marks actually fucking pretend you're actually doing something with the top talent. What fucking top talent? 1 minute you have someone like a Hangman Adam Page and a Swerve Strickland main eventing after having this intense feud, and then the next minute, not only are they not wrestling for the world championship, but they're also jobbing to put over other people. What sense does that make? You act like you just created Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock, and therefore their energy, what they do in regards to their heat, in regards to how over they are, is going to get other superstars over. That can work with The Rock and a Triple H. That can work with a Rock and a Mankind. That can work with an Austin and a Rock. That can work with an Austin and the Triple H. That can work with an Austin and the Undertaker, or a Rock and the Kane, a Rock and the Undertaker, a Rock and the Jericho, and the list goes on and on and on and on and on and on, because those guys were actually fucking over, and those guys had momentum built up within them for months before they got to the point where they actually realized that they can actually use their energy to put other people over. None of your guys have that. None of them. See, I will give credit where credit is due to a guy like a Swerve Strickland. He actually got himself into a prominent position, but he has to still build up momentum. He still has to build up clout. You still have to give him reasoning. He had one of the worst world championship reigns in the history of that company through no fault of his fucking own. Through the fault specifically because of the booking. The same booking that fucks over a guy like a Kazuchika Okada right now, who very well probably could be someone who's prominent, someone who we can actually relate to in the audience, someone who can actually hate or get behind one or the other. But that same booking that fucked over a Swerve Strickland also fucked over a Kazuchika Okada. That same booking that fucked over a Swerve Strickland and the Kazuchika Okada is the same booking that's fucking over a Hangman Adam Page at the moment right now. That same booking that's fucking over these guys are coming from the same mind that thinks booking 5 fucking matches on a night and giving them each 20 fucking minutes it's the right way to go in regards to how you want to actually promote your wrestling company, while at the same time taking that same mindset as to what you are in regards dedicating to these matches and thinking to yourself that we're going to pay $50 on a pay-per-view show to do exactly what you do on the television show on the pay-per-view. Sometimes even undercutting the pay-per-view because you put more of the important stuff on the television show. And it's not like you put them on the television show just to kind of tease it, just to kind of give people a reason to know that they might want it on the pay-per-view. No, you go full throttle and you give us actual matches on the show. Sometimes the matches on the shows outdo the pay-per-view matches. This is the booking. This is the mindset coming from the man who's asking himself, and all his sycophant ass fans talking amongst themselves, and they have a reason. They're trying to think to themselves, what the fuck is going on right now with the ratings and the viewership numbers? Are you serious right now? Are you fucking stupid or are you dumb? That's what they like to say. Are you stupid or are you fucking dumb? Because it feels like it's pretty fucking obvious why you're in the position that you're in right now. And then you sit here and you have the audacity. You have the audacity to come to the defense of a Kazuchika Okada. Where is he? Tell me, where is he? Is he on Collision? Because if he's on Collision, who the fuck watches Collision? That's another show you completely and utterly fucked over. Where is he? Is he on Rampage? Who the fuck watches Rampage? Where the fuck is he? This is the guy who supposedly was main eventing New Japan Pro Wrestling's version of WrestleMania and Wrestle Kingdom, probably the most this last decade. Dude is probably one of the greatest Japanese talents in the history of fucking Japanese culture, right? And honestly, with that, now he's probably considered one of the greatest wrestlers of all time by default, right? And look at what you're doing with him. I don't have to be a Kazuchika Okada fan to at least respect the man's ability, to respect the man's accolades. You pay him all this money and you do jack shit with him. Like I said, this is not to suggest that I don't understand that most likely Kazuchika Okada is probably happy with this. But I think you will actually probably be happy also knowing, hey, I don't have to take bumps, but at the same time, my presence is pretty much known, and I'm still carrying myself like the talent that I was when I was the John Cena or the Randy Orton over there in New Japan Pro Wrestling. You can still give him something to sink his teeth into. Austin didn't wrestle every week also. He didn't wrestle every week back in 99 and 2000 in particular, specifically after the neck injury. He did not wrestle every fucking week. I can tell you right now, between December and March, between, I want to say most likely, let's say the night after Survivor Series to probably WrestleMania, no joke, you can probably count on 2 hands how many times you got Austin wrestling on Raw. You can count on 2 hands between November all the way up to fucking March. You can count on 2 hands how many Austin matches you got on actual live television. Hell, I think even like almost like the majority of January he wasn't even there. Late December, almost the entirety of January, he wasn't there for the most part. Why do you guys think he got such that huge pop? The whole Mick Foley match with The Rock and all that stuff that happened after when Foley won his first WWE championship? Why do you think Austin got such a huge pop? He was gone for like 3 weeks at that time. Yeah. No one is advocating for someone to have to wrestle all the time. I don't even advocate that for Roman Reigns. What I am advocating for is good television. You don't have to wrestle to have good television. And if your mindset, if your booking mentality is to think to yourself that, well, I mean, we are preserving Okada at the moment by not having him wrestle so much, so all parties are satisfied with this. You don't even use that logic with MJF. Look at what you're doing with MJF right now. That type of booking is fine, but at the same time, it's not. The premise makes sense because you want to, you know, most likely preserve MJF. At the same time, though, right, you want to give him stuff to do on television. I'm not specifically saying MJF. I know he's doing the movie shit right now, but I'm saying the example in itself as to how I'm saying wrestling should be done with the larger-than-life talent, or at least the talent that you are putting in a position to be a priority in that company. What they did or what they're currently doing with MJF at the moment, that's the premise you want to go down. Obviously, you want to give a little bit more, not like how you did last night, but you want to give a little bit more. But that's what I mean, happening throughout the show. Give some goons to MJF, for an example, to have him on the show as a reason to represent him. So, you know, there are stories being fulfilled throughout the show, so he feels more important when he actually comes back. But you don't do any of that. None of that. And you have the audacity to sit back and say that, well, no, Devontae. Well, no, Tony Khan knows what he's doing, Devontae. No, he absolutely knows what he's doing. Yeah, he knows what he's doing, all right? You spend damn near, what, $50 million on all these former New Japan Pro Wrestling and WWE talents, probably half the budget of that $109 million you spent on talent overall, and you can't even hit $1 million. You spent $100 million and you can't even get $1 fucking million. Okay, totally. You keep that mindset and you keep that mentality, and as I said before, all of us over here outside of the sphere of Delululand, known as the AEW faithful, will sit back eating popcorn, watching as your company die little by little by little while you make up excuse after excuse after excuse. Happy Thanksgiving. As always, my name is Millennial Smart, and I'll be catching you guys later. La deuces and a P.I. Say some turkey for me, and I ain't talking about Tony Khan.